Hello everyone, I'm Theo Hartzell. In today's video, I want to look at and analyze the story and passage where Peter asked Jesus, how many times do I have to forgive my brother? Till 7 times? And Jesus responded and answered him, not till 7 times, but 70 times 7. In other words, 490 times in a single day. Well, I think this video is going to be educational, informative, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I want to show you the reasons I believe that Peter asked the question and also the reasons that Jesus responded why he did. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to go all the way back to the book of Genesis and show you some things leading up to why Jesus answered him exactly like he did. And also, why did Peter even ask the question in the first place? Well, the first thing that I want to do is just look at the passage in question, and I will be looking at the one as recorded in the book of Matthew. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 21, it says, Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Now, one thing that I want to do is put this in context as to why Peter is even asking the question in the first place. What brought it up? What compelled him? What made him even ask the question? Well, we need to back up a few verses in this passage to see what Jesus was teaching about. Because what Jesus was teaching about and talking about right before Peter asked the question is what compelled and made Peter ask the question in the first place. Because Jesus was talking about resolution and reconciliation and forgiveness inside of a context between you and your brother or sister. And it is what Jesus said in that is what compelled the Apostle Peter to ask the question. So when you back up a few verses and go back to Matthew 18, starting at verse 15, and this is Jesus Christ talking, he starts off and he says, Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee. Now, let me say something really quickly. That word for trespass is the Greek word 264, hamartano, which means to sin or to miss the mark, to err in action in respect to a prescribed law, to commit errors. This word does mean to sin or to miss the mark or create an error or have a problem. And in the context of this passage, it's being used in the form of the word trespass. Now, just to put this in a simple context for me to explain what trespass means, a very simple illustration that I can give you is, have you ever seen a no trespassing sign? Whether it's on a fence or a door or a building or a security thing, whatever it was, and it said no trespassing. And then usually it might go on to give the implications and what will happen if you do trespass. The point that I'm trying to make is that it is placed on the boundary of a piece of personal property or business property. And it says this is a boundary line and you cannot cross this line. If you cross this line, there will be repercussions, penalties, judgments. There will be some form of repercussion that happens to you because you crossed the line. In context to what Jesus was saying, this is saying that if your brother trespasses against you, in other words, they cross a line, like the definition says, of prescribed law. We have protections that protect us from someone else hurting or harming us. And yet in this story, in this passage, Jesus says, if your brother or sister trespass against you, in other words, they cross the line and go to a place that they shouldn't have gone. It was personal space. It was off limits. You shouldn't go there. You shouldn't talk about it. You shouldn't bring that up. You crossed the line. It's off limits. No trespassing. That's what this is in context to. And Jesus is saying that if your brother or sister cross the line against you, and let's go on. He says, go and tell him his fault. In other words, the other person trespassed or crossed the line against you and hurt you or violated you, betrayed your trust or whatever it was. Go tell him his fault between thee and him alone. In other words, between you and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. Going to verse 16, but if he will not hear thee, then take with thee 1 or 2 more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it to the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. Now, why did I read all of that and say all of that? It is because that is in the context that the Apostle Peter is asking the question, how many times do I have to forgive my brother every single day? Because Jesus has just listed this reconciliation forgiveness plan that if your brother trespasses against you or sins against you, then number 1, you have to go to them individually and tell them what they did wrong. How many of you know that this could just lead to a bunch of arguments and drama and chaos and stress and turmoil? They might not think they trespassed. You think they trespassed. They don't believe it. It can just lead to a bunch of arguments, okay? Then notice this. If you can't reconcile and work things out, then you have to get 2 or 3 witnesses together, go to them in a arbitrary, having someone independently try to negotiate this thing out and work a resolution. And then if all of that can't work it out, then you have to get the church involved and bring it before the church and let all the church know. And guess what? When you get that stuff going on, then everybody knows everybody's business. Everybody's mad. People are choosing sides. They like this one better than that one and this one and that one. And this is all important because the Apostle Peter is saying, wow, you mean every time that my brother trespasses against me, I have to potentially go through this whole cycle to bring resolution, reconciliation, and forgiveness out of the matter? How many times do we have to go through this every single day? And I do not believe that the Apostle Peter just picked the number 7 as a random number. Now, I have heard people say many different things and many reasons on why they conjecture that he said the number 7, and I will give you my opinion because I believe it is scripturally based, and I'm going to go all the way back to the book of Genesis very quickly to lay a brief foundation to show you where this whole thing involving the number 7 even came from by looking at the life of Cain. In Genesis chapter 4, verse 15, and the Lord said unto him, talking to Cain, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, listen to this, vengeance shall be taken on him 7-fold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And I know that many of you are familiar with this story of Cain and what happened, and how a mark was placed on him. And that Hebrew word is the Hebrew word oath, which simply means a sign, a signal, a distinguishing mark, or some other way that God marked him to show that he was under the protection and judgment and stewardship of God Almighty. The point that I want to bring out right here is notice also that it said vengeance would be taken on the person that messed with Cain or tried to hurt Cain or did anything to Cain. Vengeance would be taken 7 times. And another thing that I want to highlight right here is that people focus on the vengeance part, that God was going to retaliate against someone for messing with Cain. And they're looking at the vengeance part of it, and vengeance sevenfold. And they're looking at all of this. And yet there's something powerful that I see here that ties into this whole story. And it is this fact, that God came to Cain and judged Cain for the things that Cain had done wrong. The ground was cursed, and he was going to have to work really hard, and it was not going to give him the strength of its soil. He was going to be a vagabond, and he was going to be an outcast, a fugitive, anywhere and everywhere that he went. Cain was judged of God personally. And inside of that, Cain was also forgiven by God, because God could have just killed him and got rid of him because of what he had done. And so yet you see inside of how God is dealing with Cain, you see love and forgiveness and also judgment and penalty at the same time. The point that I want to make is that God said, hey, I have judged Cain and forgiven him. I've sentenced him and forgiven him. And I'm doing these things because I'm taking care of Cain personally, not you. Cain is off limits to you. If anybody messes with Cain, then sevenfold vengeance is going to come upon you, because I'm dealing with him personally in my own relationship with him. Why am I saying that? Because the Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 12 told us, do not avenge yourself or try to get vengeance or retribution by yourself on your behalf, but instead put it in the hands of the Lord, because God said that vengeance and requirement is in His hands and He will repay. What does that mean for you and I? God is more interested in you and I walking in forgiveness and love and unity, and putting retribution or vengeance or any of those things into His hand and letting Him take care of it, because He ultimately is our Father, and He's the one that is handing out judgment and forgiveness and doing whatever He wants to with the other person, but He is requiring you to walk in forgiveness. And so people are looking at this story. Well, God's going to revenge and give vengeance to Cain 7 times if anything goes wrong. And that actually ties in and leads into the next person that I want to look at, named Lamech, because this actually started this whole thing about sevenfold retribution and vengeance, and this whole mindset that came into a whole group of people that if you mess with me, you better get ready, because I'm about to come against you with vengeance and revenge and retribution that will make you ever think twice or regret that you ever messed with me. And that is in this story of this man named Lamech, who is actually from the lineage of Cain. And looking at Genesis chapter 4, verse 23, I want to highlight and focus this man named Lamech, who is one of the children of Cain, the 5th from Cain, from this evil, vengeful, jealous, full of covetousness line from Cain. And listen in verse 23 to what Lamech said. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Can you just see right here that this guy is ultra alpha male? He's even talking about himself in the third person. He's not talking about himself like I did. Listen, you wives of Lamech. Alpha male, full of pride, ego, revenge. Nobody's going to mess with me. I'm the biggest and the baddest. Listen to him. Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. Listen to this, because this is critical. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. What am I saying, and why is this important? Because this man, Lamech, who is of the lineage of Cain, ties back into what God had provided for and done for Cain. And Lamech, in his alpha male ego, vengeance, retribution driven alpha male type personality and ego and spirit, says, I have killed a man. I have done this thing. He came against me and I met him above and beyond and I killed him. And if anybody tries to come against me because of the act that I just committed and what I just did, then if Cain got vengeance 7 times, then let me get vengeance 70 and 7 or 77 times vengeance on my enemies or those that would come against me. Through the Old Testament scriptures, we see that when someone did something wrong or came against someone or did something to trespass against someone, that they began to have a law of retribution that was 7 times. In other words, if you hurt me, get ready, because I'm coming against you 7 times. If you come against me and my family, get ready, because I'm coming against you 7 times. And then we see that Lamech also, even in his pride and ego, even increased it and said, if anybody comes against me to hurt or to harm me or try to retaliate against me or try to get revenge against me, get ready, because let 77 times of retribution be sent back against you. And I'm going to come against you so hard you'll regret the day that you ever thought about coming against me. Can you see how all of this is driving revenge, retribution, getting even, hurting those that hurt you, getting back at them? And it's like, I'm going to hurt you 7 times if you hurt me. And a couple of examples I can give you. One is in Psalms 79 verse 12. And it says, and render unto our neighbors 7-fold into their bosom their reproach, wherein they have reproached thee, O Lord. Notice that. 7-fold retribution for what they did. And another one, and I'm sure you're familiar with this one, in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 31. And this is talking about a thief who has came and stole from you. And it says, but if he, the thief, be found, he shall restore 7-fold. He shall give all the substance of his house. Notice also that it is a 7-fold restoration or retribution for what he had done to the person. So just to put this all in perspective as I bring this to a close, let's go back to Matthew chapter 18, verse 21 again. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. What is going on is that Peter and this whole mindset in the Jewish culture at that time is, I will meet your violence with more violence. If you come against me to hurt me, harm me, hurt me, steal from me, take from me, wound me, do anything else, get ready. Because there's going to be a 7-fold retribution come unto you, a revenge and a vengeance. And if it's not by me because you killed me, then get ready, because my family will pick up the cause. And we will make sure that we restore unto you 7-fold for everything that you even thought about doing to me and my family. And here Jesus is saying, look, I don't want you to get revenge. I don't want you to get vengeance. I don't want you to take judgment into your own hands. I want you to leave that in my hands, because just like I dealt with Cain, I will deal with the other person. Let God be the one who gets the judgment and the forgiveness and do whatever he wants to do with the person in question that has trespassed against you. And Jesus is sitting here saying, I don't want you to get revenge 7 times. I don't want you to get revenge 77 times. I want you to forgive, and I want you to forgive so far above and beyond that I'll just go ahead and say I will forgive 7 times 70 or 490 times, far above and beyond any measure of retribution, vengeance, and retaliation that y'all want to give, because I don't want you focusing on revenge. Because it comes down to this, brothers and sisters, when you're always trying to get revenge and people are always killing those that do something wrong, at the end of the day, you can get to the place where there's nobody left because everybody's killed everybody. We've got to walk in forgiveness and love and unity. And Jesus is saying, I don't want your retribution. I don't want your retaliation. I don't want your revenge. I want you to forgive those that trespass against you or cross the line. Notice what Jesus said in Luke chapter 6, verse 35 and 6. But love your enemies and do good and lend, hoping for nothing again, and your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest, for he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. What is that passage in Scripture saying? It is saying to be like God, in God-likeness, that we need to forgive others because God's merciful and kind to those who don't even deserve it. And in order to be like God, we need to be forgiving and loving and kind to those who have wronged us and trespassed us. Now, I don't want to go into the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. I already made a video about that, so I will leave that alone. But there's a big difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. What is my takeaway for you out of this video? Number one, the reason that the Apostle Peter asked the question in the first place was because Jesus had given a law of reconciliation. And that was, if your brother has trespassed against you, go to them alone and tell them what they did wrong, and y'all hash it out and work it out and fix things. If that doesn't work, I want you to take some witnesses and all of y'all as a small group work it out. And if that doesn't work, then I want you to bring it before the whole church assembly and let the church decide the matter. And if the person still won't be corrected, then just kick them out of the church and treat them as a heathen and a publican. And the Apostle Peter is looking at that and thinking of all the logistics involved and says, how many times do I have to do that in a single day? Man, that is a lot of work and a lot of logistics and a lot of organizing and a lot of getting people together and a lot of potential stress and problems and issues. How many times do I have to do that? And I will say this, Jesus's point out of the whole matter is it doesn't matter how many times it takes. I want you to forgive. I want you to walk in peace and unity. I don't care if it happens 490 times in one day. I want you to get it fixed. I want you to take care of it because forgiveness and unity and peace is that important. Forgiving someone else is absolutely that important. I've heard it said like this. Unforgiveness and bitterness is like an acid that destroys the vessel or the container that's holding it. Holding unforgiveness and bitterness and grudge doesn't do anything but destroy your life, your health, your emotions, and can actually destroy your own physical body. There's no use for you to hold on or walk in unforgiveness, retribution, retaliation, and revenge. It's better to just forgive and turn it over to God. The second thing that I will say about it is that Jesus wanted to undo this mentality that said, I will get retribution and revenge upon you 7 times or 77 times. Because at the end of the day, when you just sit there and get revenge and retaliation and retribution against anybody and everybody that does something wrong to you, there won't be anybody left standing, because we're all human, and you'll do nothing but hurt and harm and kill and destroy anybody and everybody, and there'll be none of us left standing. Instead, Jesus was saying, look, I want you to forgive. And I don't care how many times it takes in one day. And I don't care how much you have to go through in one day. But I want you to get it resolved, because forgiveness and mercy and love and unity is that important to God. Amen. God bless you. I love and appreciate you. I hope this video was a blessing to you. I hope you learned something. And I hope it was also entertaining and educational at the same time. I love and appreciate you. I want you to know that I'm praying for you, and I'm asking you to pray for me. God bless you. I love you, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. You pray for me, and I'll be praying for you. God bless you. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.